Shalom, shalom. It's following Yeshua. Welcome again to the Rock. In this video, we're going to talk about something. And I know that sometimes people get tired of hearing it discussed, but the more examples I see firsthand of these things, the more I wonder why people are not making the moves they need to. Where I work, we had a customer come in. And this customer, what I ended up finding out, was middle class, $60,000 to $70,000 a year. She was single, 31 years old at the time of this occurrence, the time this thing happened. It just happened. So she had come in, and for those that know, we just had that huge ice storm, snowstorm. So the shelves were already picked over. Now, we obviously are already having a food crisis, a food situation taking place in this country. But on top of that, we had the snow come in. So the shores were, they were more bare than they usually are. So she had come in and she was looking for some rice. And there wasn't any on the shelf. There was nothing on the shelves, really, to be honest. Then she asked me, could I look at the top of the shelf and see if there's any rice up there? So I looked in the top and I said, I don't see any rice. And she literally started crying. The customer literally started crying. So I was like, okay, let me go check the back. And I was able to go to the back, and after spending some time back there, was able to find a couple bags of rice for her. Where she then shared with me her story. And her story was that she made, $60,000 to $70,000 a year, single. Didn't need nothing. Was always, well off and had what she, had a house in a larger city in Arkansas. Car that she was financing. The house that she was she had financed the house also. Loan, living it. But due to this whole crisis, she lost her job. And not only did she lose her job, but she couldn't afford to pay her car note, so lost her car. Couldn't afford to pay for her house, lost her house. Now, obviously there's some bad decisions in there, obviously. But seeing her cry made me feel absolutely bad because I did not know how bad her situation was until she told me, and she told me that she had been surviving the last 4 months on beans, rice, and pasta. On her Sunday, for those that don't know, in the Bible Belt, there's her Sunday dinners. She would use pasta instead of rice because that was her splurging. Rice is cheaper per pound than it is than pasta is. And she was just bawling. In the middle of the store, talking to me, sharing with me her situation, and how she could have never imagined that she was going to be in this. She was sure her life, she was sure of her life. She burned through her savings account trying to pay the house off, thinking that things were going to be returned back to normal. Then, burned through, any sort of cash and she burned through it all, thinking that things were going to return back to normal. Burned through the unemployment, thinking that things were going to return back to normal, and things didn't return back to normal. They're still shit. And she was in a situation where she was eating beans and rice for months. She didn't have a car anymore, so this was the first time she was crying because she didn't know if she was going to be able to get a ride back out to the store to get food because she had gotten a ride to get to the store because she doesn't have a car. And her neighbor was coming out to get food, so her neighbor asked her, hey, do you want to go to the store? And she said yes. She's in a 1-bedroom apartment and, she didn't have power over this crisis, not because, the ice took it out, but because she couldn't afford to pay the bill. So she's gone through this whole crisis and long johns and blankets. And I know, people, well, that's not going to happen to me. But how many times do you honestly think that she thought this was going to happen to her? I mean, she said that she was well off. Basically, she was balling. She didn't have any financial worries whatsoever. Not the slightest bit. She was spending money doing nice things and going places on vacations. And she told me what she was, but I'm not going to repeat that. It was obviously a legal job. That's not. It's not important what she did. It was important that she was making $60,000 to $70,000 out here. So she was living pretty well. Single, had no children, has no children. So when I talk about these things, about how the world's going, about the economy, about the economic crisis that we have, about storing food, about the things that I say, like women, get yourself covered. I know it sounds cliche. I know that many people don't understand where I'm coming from because most people don't read their Bibles. But I'm saying what I'm saying for a reason, because it hurt me. Even though I know she admitted, I made mistakes in my life and I made mistakes in my finances, yada, yada, yada. It hurt to know that it's not just her. In California right now, there is a homeless explosion. In this country there is. But in California there's a homeless explosion. And do you know that 80% of the homeless people that are the newly unhomed people, the demographic it's 80% women? 80% of the new homeless people in California are women. Women. All across this country, the largest demographic of people that are homeless that's growing is women. It's not men, it's women. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? It's so sad to think that despite the warnings, in this faith right now, there are going to be sisters who are going to suffer. It's sad that there are going to be brothers who are going to suffer, not because they didn't know, not because they didn't hear it, but because they weren't doers. They didn't store food. They didn't prepare. They didn't simplify their lives. Women they chose not to get covered. I can't tell you how many stories of women that are sending messages. Yeah, I got followed home today. Nothing happened to me. Praise Yah, but I got followed home today. My husband called him and he met me at the park, because you obviously don't want the person to follow you home. So he met me at the park and he was ready to put in some work because somebody was following me. I didn't think the person was following me, but I made a left turn, he made a left turn. Or I can't say he, the driver made a left turn. I made a right turn, the driver made a right turn. And they want to let me know because they're saying, hey, the warnings you're talking about are real. The things that are happening out here are real. And because it doesn't happen to them, that normalcy bias kicks in. They say, well, it's not going to happen to me. But beans and rice for months, and she didn't see any deliverance. She didn't see any rest coming from that. That's what her life was going to be. And people think that this is a game. The shelves are going bare. The economic crisis is getting worse. Inflation, shrinkflation, all sorts of flations are going up. You're not getting what you used to get for your dollar. And people are continuing. They're saying, well, I'm making great money right now. That is awesome. But unless you are doing something to preserve yourself, you're going to find yourself in a terrible situation. Yah forbid. And especially people in this faith. Especially because you're hearing the warnings. Especially because you're hearing the call. Especially because you're being told. You're being shown in the Bible what it says. And still, that normalcy bias kicks in. And, well, once we're in the shittiest situation we possibly could find ourselves in, then we want to get ready. Then we want to go and find the answers that were always there. It's so sad. I talked to or I don't talk to, but from the seed orders, I get the opportunity. Single sisters get the opportunity. I mean, married sisters get the opportunity to share their testimonies of how grateful they are for their husbands, how grateful they are that Yah gave their husband the vision to come out. Yah gave their husband the vision to buy a piece of property. Yah gave their husband the vision to store some food. Or the sister brought, maybe the husband wasn't doing it, but the sister brought it to her husband, and her husband took off like a rocket ship, storing food. Sisters showed their husband the channel. Hey, look, this brother's doing it. Maybe you should listen to him. Maybe you should, watch some of his videos. And he watches some of the videos. He contacts me. He asks me, hey, why are you storing food? And I let him know. And then, bam, he takes off like a rocket ship, storing food, putting back things, coming out of her, buying land, doing all these awesome things for the preservation of his family. For the preservation of his family. And yet and still, we have a complacency that's here where everybody says it's not going to happen to me. It's only going to happen to those people over there. It's only going to happen to those people over there. But it's happening to people that you know right now. It's happening to people that call Yah. It's happening to people that keep the commandments. Why? Because they're not heeding the warnings. You know how sad it would be? And how sad it is when you get emails from people who are eating beans or eating rice or don't know how they're going to pay their rent or about to be evicted in 2 weeks or already have an eviction notice or about to, their car got repoed and all this shit's befalling them and all the warnings have been there. The watchmen have been blowing the shofar. And I've been specifically been telling you sisters, get married, get covered. Why I'm not moving in fear? That's cool. You don't have to move in fear. But I wonder, is that what the people in those times said? I ain't moving in fear. I'm good. Is that what they said? This unbelief that has taken over, this idea that it can't happen to me, it's misleading and deceiving so many people, brothers and sisters. It's deceiving them until it's at their front door, beating down their front door, letting them know, hey, you're knocking on the front door and you're like, hey, who is it? You're outside. It's starvation. It's destitution. It's homelessness because you would not heed the word. I'm not saying these things for me. I'm saying them for you. I'm saying them because these are the things, these are the reports that I'm getting. I'm getting the testimonies. I'm getting the reports. I'm getting the messages. I'm getting the GoFundMes. And can you send me some money on PayPal, please? And it's from brothers who are lazy, who are apathetic, who are passive, who don't want to change. And it's from women who are lazy and apathetic and passive and don't want to change. And everybody thinks, well, I have shit right now, so I don't know what you're talking about. But yet they can go to the same grocery store and see that the shelves are being bare. The food's not there like it used to be. And still, it does not provoke movement. It doesn't provoke anything because they say, well, you're just living in fear, brother. Well, tell that to the people. Tell that to the brothers and sisters that are suffering right now because they didn't move. Tell them you don't want to live in fear. Beans and rice with spaghetti on Sundays for her Sunday dinners. 31 years old. Making $60,000 to $70,000 a year, and is now in a place where she says that she can't even get to the food pantry because she doesn't have a car. And this is what's coming to a lot of people. Why? Not taking heed. Plant food, grow food. If you don't, there's so much bad advice out there that especially you sisters are getting. Go buy a travel trailer and just pull it out in the middle of the woods or pull it out, to a parking lot or pull it, to a campsite. And what a lot of you are finally coming to the realization of is, if I pull it somewhere, it's going to be to a family's property, which means I'm still under the covering of that man. But I still want to maintain my independence. And just being real, a lot of people's independence is going to destroy them. A lot of people's drive and want for their own independence, especially you sisters, that's what's going to be what's going to destroy you. A lot of you brothers who want to John Rambo it and be by yourself and do your own thing, that's what's going to be what's the downfall. We as brothers need each other. And sisters, you need a covering. I know I'm going to lose some subscribers for doing this video. But maybe, as times continue to get worse, if you're that person that unsubscribes because you're tired of hearing it, maybe these words will prick you. Maybe you'll hear the words at some point in time, and y'all willing, it's not when you're sliding downhill and you can't stop the momentum. I issue these warnings so that those that have the ears to hear will hear and make a move. I know it's not for everybody, but maybe it's just for you. You. Beans and rice. What does your future hold? Look at the path that you're on and ask yourself, what does that path end up in a year if things don't change? In fact, if they get worse, where will you be at the end of this year? Think about it. Bless y'all. Shalom.